Good. Hello, I'm Rabbi Tuvia Bolton. This is the third class in 20 classes where we're going to discuss being happy through understanding properly the blessings in the morning that we say. The religious people say a whole series of blessings in the morning, and it ends up coming out to be 20 blessings if you count all of all the blessings all together. And these blessings, if you think about what they are, you feel gratitude, and the gratitude brings you to a certain type of selflessness, not thinking about yourself, thinking about something bigger, and that makes you happy. Happiness. I just read recently a very interesting thing before we get into talking about this blessing. Today we're going to discuss the blessing of Asher Yatzar. It's a blessing that religious people make every time they go to the bathroom. Every time you finish going to the bathroom, you wash your hands, you say this blessing, Asher Yatzar Adam b'chachma, that God, you created man with wisdom, and you created in him all sorts of apertures and hollow places, and etc. We'll go through the blessing, but let's just talk a little bit about happiness. A little bit about happiness. How saying these blessings is a thing that brings you happiness. First of all, some people, nothing will bring them happiness. No matter what happens, nothing will bring them happiness. And one of the reasons is because people are too selfish. They think about themselves too much, and they expect too much. They expect, no matter what they get, they always expect more. So I heard a very interesting thing. Somebody wrote to me that those people who say that man descended from an ape, right? There's evolutionists who say that man descended from an ape. Well, those same people say that the purpose of man, because if man descended from an ape, it's just a totally natural process. So there's no God or superior being or creator. So, which is a possibility. I mean, it definitely is a possibility. That which we say that there is a creator, it is our faith that there is a creator. And after we do believe there's a creator, we have a lot of evidence to support it, but you can't prove it. The only one that's going to prove it is the Mashiach. Everyone will feel godliness. But until then, we can't prove it. But let us say that there is no creator and that man really descended from an ape. So those people who say that man descended from an ape, they will say that what is the purpose of man? What does a man live for? To be happy, to be carefree, to be, how do you say it, Freud and those people, homeostasis. There shouldn't be any problems. Shouldn't be problems. Everything should be calm. This person said, well, if you look and if you make an investigation of what are the happiest animals in the world, the happiest animals in the world, he said, are apes. Apes are the happiest. Monkeys. You give a monkey a banana, or you give a monkey a female monkey, the happiest creation in the world. They're jumping and swinging from trees and happy, carefree, nothing, no problems whatsoever. All they need is a very minimum and they're happy, which is not the case the human beings. Human beings are the least happy creations in the world. You can give a human being everything. Give him money, give him a wife, a home, children, everything that he needs, and he still is miserable. So if so, according to that, evolution should be that it brings the creation. It starts off with amoebas, and it goes up to frogs, and then to dogs, and then to monkeys, whatever. So it should be that the top of the ultimate level of creation, the highest level of development, should be the happiest, because that's the goal of mankind. But we see it's exactly the opposite. So that's sort of a proof that maybe man didn't come from a monkey, or maybe the purpose of man is not to be happy. Maybe it's not to be happy. Maybe the purpose of creation is not to be happy. Well, Judaism doesn't say that. Judaism says that let's not say the purpose of creation is to be happy, but let us say the best state that we can be is a happy state. To be happy, because happiness cannot be a goal. This whole idea of pursuit of happiness, Professor Viktor Frankl talks about this a lot, that happiness cannot be pursued. It has to ensue. It has to come from something that's meaningful. And when you, same thing with success. Success is a thing that cannot be pursued. It has to be something that ensues by being honest, by being that you say, the alacritous and being and then not being lazy. When a person has a real true goal and a real true purpose in the world, but it's true, a true purpose, as the result of that is happiness. The result of that is happiness. And that's what the blessings in the morning are trying to teach us, that we should have happiness, not like an ape's happiness. An ape's happiness is a very basic physical happiness, but a happiness that comes from fulfilling our responsibility by living according to our values. There's a certain type of happiness that can be achieved there that can't be achieved anywhere else. And the purpose of Judaism is to give us true goals, true values, true responsibility, and also the knowledge that it depends on us, that we have to do by sitting and doing nothing, or by acting like apes with no responsibility whatsoever, as that will not bring a true level of happiness. But it takes a little bit of work, and it takes constant work. It has to be done constantly, and that's the idea of the blessings in the morning. Every morning we wake up, we have to do the whole process over again. So we spoke about previously the blessing. Well, it's not really a blessing, it's before the blessings of Modeh Ani Lefanecha. That every Jew has to surrender himself to the truth, to Hashem. That's the idea of Modeh Ani. And then after that, we talked about, last class, briefly about washing the hands. That washing the hands is a thing that prepares us to actually do something, to serve the creator of the universe. The hands are something that can take the lowest things, even things below our feet, dig into the ground and raise them higher, which is the purpose of man in the world. And we didn't talk that much about it last time, but it says the right arm, the right side, represents kindness, and the left side is severity, strongness, power. Man is created in the image of God. It says in the Bible we're created in the image of God. It also says very clearly that God does not have any image. So how do we reconcile these two statements? Is that man has a soul, and that the soul has the same properties as God does, the way he makes the world, the way he relates to the world. So the right side, it says God's right arm, it says Yamincha Hashem, the right arm represents kindness, and the left arm is severity or power. And by pouring water on them, as water represents this level of chachma, or awareness of something higher than us. It's also called faith. The awareness of something infinite that we're living for and that we're living from. That's this idea of water. And when we pour this water on our hands, it sort of unifies and harmonizes our right side, our kindness, our giving side, and our severe side. There has to be both. Kindness without any limitation is chaos, and too much limitation without kindness is death. There's no, things don't flow. So they have to be both together. That's the idea. Another aspect of washing your hands to prepare yourself to serve God. So now I want to talk about this blessing of going to go after one goes to the bathroom. We say this blessing. First of all, interestingly enough, the blessing is made every time that we go to the bathroom, and there's not any mention in this blessing about going to the bathroom or eliminating the waste in our system. But if you think about it for 1 second, let's just consider, what is this idea of eliminating the waste in our system? Where does this waste come from? It comes from food. Now, who would dream that in a piece of food, in a piece of bread or a cake or a steak or vegetables, that there is this waste, this foul, repulsive substance that we push out of our body? When it's in the food, you don't see any waste there whatsoever. Everything just seems to be totally homogenized, and there's only one unit, namely food. If we would know for 1 minute that there was all this waste inside, and especially the form that it takes, how disgusting it is, we would never eat it. Would never. I mean, maybe there's certain people who would eat it. There's all sorts of people in the world, but generally speaking, people would not eat this. But food is always something that's appetizing, which is the opposite of waste is totally not appetizing. It's something that is, as its name is, it's waste. You throw it away. It's disgusting. So here we have a very big miracle that the human system can actually take from apparently good and tasty and appetizing food and separate the negative part of it and push it out. And that's an amazing miracle that the digestive system can do, and that the human being has. That it can take and discern, and divide between good and bad. This is a very basic aspect of what a human being is, that a human being has the power of choice. In fact, we can say that that is what a human being is, the power of choice. Animals don't have the power of choice in a true way. Animals go according to their nature. It's automatic to an animal what it does. Sometimes it could be, to run from fire, which direction to run, what to fight, flight. But it's basically in their nature. It's not really that they're making a free choice. You can't hold an animal responsible for his choices. His choices are only what he does naturally. And therefore, if an animal is dangerous, you can't expect the animal is going to change himself. Sure, muad is muad, unless he changes himself somehow or other, becomes not muad. There's ways, and according to halacha, they do, that it can be. But generally speaking, you don't hold an animal responsible. You hold the owner responsible for what the animal does. Now, which is not the case of human being. Human being is responsible, namely that he has the ability to take this apparently homogenized world and to refine the bad out of it, to the point where the bad even becomes repulsive to him. And this power to do this, to discern, is what's called chachma. Chachma. Chachma, and according to Kabbalah, it's brought also in the book the Tanya, in the 3rd chapter. Chachma is koach ma, the power of ma. In Chassidut, it's explained that this power of ma is the gematria 45. That's also the same gematria as the word Adam. Aleph Daled Mem is also 45. And what this number 45 is, excuse me, is the ability to, I'll say it in Hebrew, hatama, the ability to realize your obligation and to fit in to the situation, to fit in. I'll give you a small example. For instance, a person who's playing, he's on a basketball team, so bittul, this chachma, this level of chachma, as far as basketball goes, would be to fit yourself into the rules and to play the game to your utmost. In other words, fitting yourself in and doing what you're supposed to do according to the reality that you're in. A person's in the army, there, the chachma bittul means that you have to do whatever you're commanded to do, or anything that's necessary in order to defeat the enemy. In other words, that's according to the game plan. But what if there's a bigger game plan? What if the game plan is God's game plan? It's the goal is to serve God with love, to love God with all of your heart, your might, with all of your soul. That's not as easy as fitting into a basketball team or fitting into fitting into the army. Here, a person very often has to follow his conscience. He has to follow his values in order to do this refining process of getting rid of the bad from an apparently homogenized, unified world that doesn't seem to have any bad in it, the just world, and to separate what's bad from the good. This is a very, very great miracle, and this is an ability of man, which is called chachma. So that's how this blessing starts off. Blessed are you, God, that you formed man with chachma. Adam, the chachma. This power of chachma is the power that we have to discern. Maybe you can call it conscience. Conscience, that a person suddenly feels what is right and what is wrong. Suddenly has this sense of values that he's even willing to sacrifice himself for, because he feels that that could be that what he's doing, even though nobody seems to notice it, like when a person eats food, doesn't seem to notice it, but there's really something bad inside of it. And the Jewish people, especially, have a special obligation to separate a whole different type of bad from good. For instance, who would dream that pushing a light is forbidden? Forbidden. Every day of the week you can do it. When it comes to Shabbat, apparently Shabbat is just like every other day. The scientists can tell you, an astronomer can tell you what day of the month it is, maybe even what day of the year it is. But no one can tell you what day of the week it is, because week is not a natural thing. So there's really physically no difference between Shabbat and any other day. But according to the Torah, there's a very, very big difference. And there are certain things which are like waste products on Shabbos. You are not allowed to do it. You have to separate that from the rest of the week. But that you can only have if you have faith, if you have emunah. That emunah, that faith, that koach ma, or bitul, is what makes us devoted to Hashem and a whole different type of truth, a whole different system of truth that we have. So that's what we make the blessing. Asher yotzer sadam b'chachma. We're giving thanks to Hashem. We're giving thanks to the Creator that He gave us this amazing, amazing gift, which is called chachma. He created us with wisdom. We have wisdom inside of us. There's also another explanation that He created man with His wisdom. Because God used wisdom in order to create man, which that's also true. But here we're created in God's image, so really both of them are actually true. So we're giving thanks to Hashem that He gave us the ability to discern and to realize what is good and what is not good. The ability to push the bad out from ourselves, from our own personalities, from our own nature, and to digest the good, to use the good things to give us energy and to give us inspiration for godliness. But the question still is why? Why why does God do this? At the end of the blessing, we say, Rofe kol basar umafli lasot, that God heals all flesh and He does great miracles. Heals all flesh. Now, the ability to heal is a really very amazing talent. It's an amazing talent. But the question is still asked, why? Why is it so great a talent? What is really the point of healing a person? Why is there such a thing as getting sick and getting well? What is the difference between them? So the answer is that when a person is sick, he cannot serve God. A person is sick, he cannot do what he was created to do, namely, ani lo nivreti elo l'shamash es zakeni. It says, God said, I was not. God says man says to God, I was only created to serve you, to serve my owner. That's why man was created, in order to serve God. Very interesting Rambam, Maimonides, that he says that God made all sorts of miracles. Mafli lasot, God made all sorts of miracles when He took the Jews out of Egypt. We see there were 10 plagues. God split the sea, gave them man from heaven, water from a rock. The Rambam says that all of these miracles that God did was not to prove His existence, not to get the Jews to believe in Him, because all these miracles could have been done by sorcery. Could be that there's not, to this day, has never been such a sorcerer that can do these things. It says that sorcery didn't rule over anything that's smaller than one of the lice or something, barley. But nevertheless, all of the miracles could be done by some sort of sorcery. If so, why did God do these miracles? So the Jews needed bread. They were hungry. He gave them man from heaven. They had to go across the sea. God split the sea for them. In other words, all of the miracles that were done were only in order to facilitate, to make it easier for people to serve the Creator. And that's the whole purpose why man is in this world, is to serve the Creator. So there's a story, a beautiful story that I heard about the Baba Sali. I think it was Rabbi Yisrael Abu Chatzera, or it could be that it was Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera, his father, who's now buried in Egypt. but they were great tzaddikim and great also miracle workers. Once there was a lady in Morocco. I don't know which city that he lived in, but I think it was in, someone can correct me if you think, but I think it was in the city of Marrakesh. There's a woman brought her son to the Rebbe and asked the Rebbe a blessing if the Rebbe, the Rebbe Yaakov Avuchatzera, if he would pray that her son would die. Why? Because her son was born totally paralyzed and he couldn't move, couldn't talk. He was awake, he was aware. He was totally paralyzed, and she was able to bring him up while he was still young, but he started to get older and older and bigger, and it was very difficult for her to move him, and she ran out of money, so she couldn't hire helpers anymore to help her. And she was stuck with this child, and the child was already a grown man. He was 25 years old, whatever, 20 years old. And she couldn't move him, and it was very difficult for her to get on. She was also getting weaker and weaker. So she said to of course, nobody wanted to take him. So she prayed to the Rebbe. She didn't want to put him into a hospital where they would just misuse him. Who knows what they would do. So she prayed for the Rebbe. So the Rabbi Avuchatzera said, that's what you pray for. You have to pray it gets better. He said, Rabbi, let's be realistic. I've taken him to all sorts of other people and all the doctors. There's no hope. So he said, you don't want him? So leave him by me. Take him into my yard and lay him down on the ground in the yard. So they took him into the yard. The house was built sort of like a circle, a square, and in the middle of the house there was a yard. Took him to the yard, and he ordered that the boy be put in the sun. It was the sun. Sun is a healing thing. It was a hot day. It was Morocco, and the boy was laying in the sun. And the Baba Sali, the Rav Yaakov Avuchatzera, he went out to the yard, and he sat in the shade, and he opened up a book of the Zohar, and he started reading. He was reading. It was very hot, and the boy is sweating. Suddenly, the boy says, "Hey, old man, get me out of the sun." So Yaakov Avuchatzera said to him, "Shh, be quiet. I'm reading. I'm concentrating. Don't bother me." And the boy said, "Hey, old man, what type of cruel thing is this? Get me out of the sun. I'm boiling in the sun." And he said, "I told you to be quiet. Don't bother me." And he said, "If you don't get me out of the sun, I'm going to tell my mother." He said, "Tell your mother. Go and tell your mother. What do I care what you do?" The boy stood up, went outside, said, "Mother, that old man put me in the sun." Everyone starts screaming outside, dancing. But his mother almost passes out from happiness. In no time, all of the Arabs in the whole area hear about it. They all come to Rabbi Avuchatzera, asking him for blessings, bringing him the gifts, whatever they have, chickens and the eggs. So someone said, that was an amazing miracle that you did. Rebbe is an amazing miracle. And the boy and the mother, they thanked him so much. So what type of a miracle? I don't understand. He said, if I always do what God wants, so what's the miracle if once in a while he does what I want? In other words, the whole idea of why man is in the world is to do what God wants. After all, we're just creations, and God is creating us every single instant brand new. He's creating the whole world every single instant brand new. But he wants us to be individuals, and he wants us to be his partners. That should make us very happy when we know that we're in such good hands, and we know that God has such faith in us that he gives us this amazing job of being the guardians over the whole world. Like Abraham was called Av Hamon Goyim, he was called the father of all nations, father of all mankind, basically. So that's the idea of why God gives us health, why he gives us a body, and why he does this great, great miracle of uniting our soul with the body so that we can do even a greater miracle and unite God with the world. And that's how this blessing ends. Mafli lasot, that God does lasot, mafli, miracles. He does great miracles. He attaches the soul with the body. He attaches our intelligence with our brain. He attaches emotions with our heart. But even more, he attaches through us himself with the world. That's what a mitzvah is. Mitzvah means connection, tzavta v'chibur, that God connects this miracle, the ultimate miracle, the oneness of Hashem, la'asot, with his physical world. So when we say that, then we can have a different happiness than the apes do. We can have the happiness that man has when he fills his responsibility and he knows he's not just living for himself. And that's why man can have everything and be very sad, because he always wants more. There's no end to it. But to give any little bit that he gives to the Creator is a very wonderful thing. He feels that he's worth something. He's important. It's important in the eyes of the Creator. So let's look at this blessing again. Asher yotzar et ha'adam b'chachma, that God, you created man with this thing called chachma, with this thing called, it's always translated as wisdom, which I guess wisdom because it comes from experience or wisdom, but in wisdom, if it's intuition. But wisdom means also, chachma means also faith. It means conscience. It means the feeling of values. That you gave us this wisdom, and in this wisdom, there are holes and there are hollow places. Now, that's not the simple meaning. The simple meaning is that you created us in the most complicated, wise way, and that man has all sorts of apertures and holes, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, and all sorts of hollow places, the lungs, the heart, stomach. All these things are really great miracles, because if there's a little hole in one of them, is, God forbid, how delicate man is. If there's a little hole in one of these, a person can easily, God forbid, die. And similarly, if one of them is closed up, is the same thing. If one of the holes, if one of the places that's supposed to be closed becomes open, or one of the places that's supposed to be open becomes closed, as it can certainly be fatal. I remember once I lived in Bnei Brak. I used to pray in a Chabad synagogue over there on a street called Rehov Avram. There came an old Chassid. His name was Rabbi Stulin. He was a very great Talmid Chacham and a very interesting person also. And once I remember, he had one leg. There was a whole miracle that happened with him from the Rebbe, that the Rebbe told him to get his leg checked. He didn't think everything was wrong with it, and it ended up that if he wouldn't have had his leg checked, he would have died from gangrene. And so anyway, he had one leg, used to work on, and once he came out of the bathroom and he washed his hands and he made this blessing. He said, you don't know what it means to make a really happy Asher Yotza, that's the blessing, until you've had troubles in that area. The person that, God forbid, has troubles going to the bathroom, when those troubles are alleviated, it's a very great happiness. But the reason why it's happiness is not just because the troubles were alleviated. The purpose of man is not to have no troubles. The purpose of man is that he should serve Hashem, and he can't do it if he has troubles. If he has troubles, he has to think about himself all the time. My leg hurts, my arm hurts. So a person we have to be happy that we're healthy, so that we can make the world a better place. The whole world depends on the Jews, and the Jews depend on the Torah, and the Torah depends totally on God. And the one that links this whole thing together, of course, are the tzaddikim. And all the Jewish people, somehow or other, in some aspect of their life, are also tzaddikim. They can learn from the Rebbe, from other tzaddikim, like in the story of the Baba Sali, about what really our purpose is to be here. So here's this blessing, that God, you made man with chachma. So you made man very wise, but let's look at it the other way. You gave us this thing of chachma. And you made, in this wisdom, you made certain holes, our eyes, our ears, our nose, that we connect to the world, our mouth. We can speak, we can listen. These things connect us to the world, but we have to sift out what we take in from the world. There are some things in the world that can be very, very harmful, very dangerous. There are some things in the world which can be very good. We can learn. Ezehu chacham alon ben mikol adam. A person who's wise, that person that learns from every situation that you're in, you have to learn from. It says that's why God created the world with speech. He could have created the world with light, with waves, with spirit, but it was speech, because letters of speech have meaning. So everything in the world is created with speech, because everything in the world has some sort of meaning to it. Maybe we won't merit to understand everything. There's big tzaddikim. It says King Solomon could understand the sound, speaking of the trees. Wind blew through the trees. He could understand what the birds were saying, maybe we can't get to that level. But still, everything in the world has a lesson to it. That's the holes that God makes in Chachma. Things that we should learn, things that we should reject. It says it's known in front of you, God, that if one of these is closed or one is open, if you close your mind to good things in life, or if you open your mind to negative things, as it could be that this Chachma, it's impossible for it to exist even one moment. There's some things that a person can see, can hear, if he doesn't know how to translate it properly, if he hasn't got a positive attitude, that it can take away his chachma, his faith in God. There's two terrible stories in the Chumash, in the Gemara, and one of them was Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Another one was Yeravam ben Navat, and there's a third one also with Achi Hashilon. With skip my mind. I'll think of it in a second. With Acher, Elisha ben Avua. And all three of them were tremendous Talmidei Chachamim, tremendous tzaddikim, holy people devoted to God. And each one of them saw something. Something happened to them in the world. According to one opinion, that one of them was walking down the street and he saw a man ask his son to do the mitzvah of sending the mother off of the eggs, Shiluach HaKen. And both of these commandments, honoring your father and Shiluach HaKen, it says you do it so you should have long life. And the boy did these two commandments, went up the tree, sent away the mother that should give him long life, and the boy fell down and broke his neck and died. And Yochanan Kohen Gadol or Elisha ben Avua, they saw this, and it shook them to the essence of their soul. And they denied the Torah, they denied the commandments. One became a Saduki and the other one. So sometimes we can see things in the world. There are people that went through the Holocaust. They saw things that would shake any normal person's heart, that would make anybody crazy. Unless a person has an idea in his mind, a clear values, a clear goal in life. There was Dr. Viktor Frankl. I took a lot of courses about him, read of many of his books many times, tremendously inspiring, very deep. And he went into the Holocaust with his ideas already formulated, but they hadn't really put them to use. And when he got there, he saw that any person that was really in the camps that had some sort of a goal, some sort of something to live for, as those people were able to sift out, they were able to digest properly the terrible things that they saw and eliminate the bad, like the digestive system, like we're talking about. So every person has these nekavim, chalim. Every person has these holes, these apertures, and these empty places inside of him, which are used to take in and to digest properly what we see. So what we see, what we hear. So it says, if a person does not do this properly, it could be that he'll lose his faith. It could be that he'll lose his connection to something that's greater than him. And therefore, we're giving a blessing to God that Hashem preserves us and he helps us. Then we end the blessing by saying, Baruch atah Hashem, Rofei kol basar, that God, you heal all flesh, umafli lasot, and that you do in the physical world great miracles. So that's the reason that we're here. We're here now in the world in order to exactly that, do action, miracles, things that are totally above the world, to bring this into the world, because that's what a Jew is. Every single Jew is a holy temple. And just as in the holy temple was revealed the essence of God, so to every Jew. And that's the whole idea of what we say in Aleinu, Yakiru v'yedu, Kol Yeshvei Tevel, that everyone will recognize God. When a person recognizes God, what does he recognize? He recognizes that there's a creator. He recognizes that there's a creator and that he's being created, and that he's being created for a purpose, and that everything in the world is being created constantly, and everything is really being created constantly from nothing. So everything is really made from nothing. If it's made from nothing, then how is it here? And the answer is it's a miracle. Everything is a miracle. And that's what it means, mafli lasot, that God makes a great miracle, makes a great miracle, that everything is really miraculous. And that's what we get from Chachma. So every time a Jew goes to the bathroom, as you should say this blessing, giving thanks to God that he gave us this wisdom and he gave us the ability to digest things and to eliminate the bad and to utilize the good so that we can make this world into a good, wise, happy place filled with the oneness of God. And it'll be fulfilled what it said also in Aleinu Yifnu Elecha Kol Rish E'aretz. Even the evil people of the world will turn to the Creator because God is creating them also. He's creating everything. And this is how to be happy. When you think about this blessing, you can really be happy. And when you're happy, it makes other people happy. Just from such mundane thing as going to the bathroom, such a natural thing, as we can derive happiness and joy because it's another one of the miracles of the Creator of the universe. Have a good week. Oh, in 3 more days, everyone's going to light the candles, Hanukkah candles. So I'll say just 1 minute, 2 minutes about what is Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a holiday that was begun about 2,500 years ago. And according to Jewish literature, there were only 13 Maccabees, and they stood against the whole entire Greek army, and all of the Jews were with the Greek army. They liked the Greeks. The Greeks did not destroy the Beis Hamikdash. They did not destroy the temple. They did not pour out the oil. They did not defile they didn't break the menorah. They didn't go around killing Jews. What did they want to do? They just defiled the oil. They opened the bottles, or they just touched the bottles. They defiled the temple. How did they defile it? They came in and they touched things they weren't supposed to touch. They were very cultured people, the Greeks, and the Jews loved it. The Jews, first of all, the Greeks were sitting high. They had conquered the whole entire world, and the Jews are not fools. They know to join with the winners. And there was just a handful of fanatics that decided that no, we don't want the temple service to be in a way that's impure. You have to have the temple service in a way that's going to be totally pure. We're not going to use impure oil. And because of their craziness and willingness to sacrifice their lives just so that things will be the ultimate pureness, so Hanukkah comes out to be the only commandment in all of Judaism that everyone does what's called mahadrin mina mahadrin. The essential law of lighting Hanukkah lights is one every night. That's all you have to light, is one candle every night. You don't have to light any more than that. Every night, one candle. You have a family of 10 people. The first night you light one candle. The second night, one candle. The third night, one candle. That's the law. But if you want to be special, so each person in the house can light one candle. One candle, the same number every night. It says the mahadrin mina mahadrin, the special of the special is that each person lights an increasing amount of candles every night. According to Beis Hillel, increasing number every night. So we see that everybody does the special of the special, mahadrin mina mahadrin. Why? Because the whole holiday came from people who were mahadrin mina mahadrin, the crazy of the crazy. They were willing to give their lives for such a thing. Just there should be total purity in the holy temple. And the idea is that some people light the candles outside. There's a commandment to light outside. According to Kabbalah, and we also go according to that in Chabad, we light it inside. But there is a principle to light the candles outside, and the reason is to show that in Hanukkah, this is the foretelling, a taste of the third temple. And in the time of the third temple will not illuminate the whole world like the first and the second temples did, but rather the third temple will be a sign that the world will illuminate itself. The godliness will shine from the whole entire world. That's why we put the candles outside, that the outside itself will shine, and that everyone will recognize and realize the Creator that is creating them, and the world will be filled with light. And one last thing you have to remember, that if you light one candle, one little light can push away a lot of darkness, but nevertheless, one light is sufficient. According to the law, one light is sufficient. And one light illuminates a lot of darkness, but we're not sufficing with one light. Every night you have to increase and increase and increase. There's a lot of darkness in the world, and we should never be satisfied with what we have spiritually. It says, "Samech bechal kol baruchnis umira karua." To be satisfied with what you have spiritually is a very bad thing. To be satisfied with what you have physically is very nice. But satisfied spiritually is not, and that's the holiday of Hanukkah. And through that, we will all dance together in Jerusalem with Trump on the building of the third temple that will come from heaven, and all the Jews will be here together with tremendous joy and happiness, illuminating the whole entire world. Have a happy Hanukkah, everyone. Any questions?